The uncertainty has settled. Today I'm bringing you a fascinating interview with an award-winning filmmaker who has been shunned by his liberal peers for his own open-mindedness about climate change. Last week I went to a film about climate change because, well, that's sort of my thing, and I brought my camera with me to talk to the filmmaker because I'm a journalist and that's what I do. The film is called The Uncertainty Has Settled, and the screening was hosted by our friends at Friends of Science, and it is not your typical climate change documentary at all. It was made by an independent filmmaker who spent years documenting conflict and poverty in Africa. Marijn Poels went back to Europe to reflect when he noticed something troubling happening in the West. That troubling thing was energy policy.
We face energy poverty in a developed nation of the biggest economy, and that was my biggest question: on how is that possible? And when I saw the debate, which is the debate on climate change, which is not there and should be there, and I think here we are always so good in the West to say what's wrong in Africa. But I saw something which I didn't experience in Africa, and that's the lack of democracy, the lack of freedom of opinions. And I thought, this is the film I want to make.
It's an incredible film about what happens when farmers get more money for planting wind turbines and biofuels than crops and livestock.
The European Council has agreed on a climate and energy deal for Europe.
Ich sage mal, schade, dass wir unter den Windrädern kein Ackerland haben.
Da bekommst du viel Geld.
Dann bekommst du viel Pacht dafür.
The farmer has become energy supplier, and we became the activists.
Wir wollen die erneuerbaren Energieträger und unseren Kindern und Kindeskindern eine Zukunft zu geben.
But what troubled Marijn more than the climate poverty was the lack of debate.
My biggest reason why I want to make that film is that I saw the necessity of a debate which isn't there. And I think that's the biggest thing where we can fight for, because that's called democracy. And the moment the debate is shutting down, dictatorial dictatorship will replace it. And that's, and I think that's a very decent scare to fight for.
Marijn describes himself as a liberal, but the reaction he received from his left-wing friends and colleagues was shocking for him.
I was very open, very, liberal, which means in my eyes that we should open ourselves for different perspectives in order to understand them, and from there on seeking for a solution. But what I noticed is that when I did that, I received quite some threats, hate mails, phone calls from organizations who were calling me, it's better to stop screening this film before you get into real trouble. And what I noticed is among journalists, I had a decent network, and all these journalists were kept silent as well, because I send out press releases to these people, and it remained silent. We're journalists, we should confuse people, that's democracy. And now, not in a time where climate change is under pressure due to the rising right-wing populism. And I said, but when there is a perspective, another perspective. So what is the danger in give that exposure? And then they say that there is something like journalistic responsibility, and that's quite scary for me.
You can find Marijn's film, The Uncertainty Has Settled, on his Vimeo page or in the link below. Climate change policy has a lot of unintended consequences. Sometimes it means farmers produce less food. And in Marijn's case, sometimes it means you find out who your friends are. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. What you just saw there is my daily video that I do here at The Rebel, but what you might not know is that I have my own full-length show. It's aptly called The Gun Show, and we talk about issues facing Canadian families. But to get access to my show and the rest of our incredible premium content, be sure to become a Rebel subscriber today.